dear, something is wrong with the new W12 ahead of the new 2021 season. My name is Peter on Pole. Welcome to my F1 channel. Let's get into it. Mercedes in trouble ahead of the season. Shout out to Hywel Thomas, who done a video on Mercedes' YouTube channel, talking about the counting down to the W12. And initially, I just thought it was a video talking about the new car, what we're expecting to see, how Mercedes are looking ahead. But what I got from this video was nothing but problems. It kicks things off with, we know we've got some issues. We have got some issues, but we've got plenty of plans in place to sort of rectify those problems. Now, I didn't know they had issues. Did anybody else? I mean, I'm surprised. Why would he even come out and mention it? Shout out to Hywel Thomas. He's the managing director at Mercedes. Very open, very honest. It seems like there was a series of questions that maybe fans have put in, and they just sort of selected a few and have asked how to answer these questions the best he can. So the first problem he mentions is about the amount of dyno hours in order to run the engines and check the performance of the new engine ahead of the season. So the regulations have limited the hours, which, it creates a bit more competition. Everybody's a bit more nervous, a bit more tense. But as you can see, for a team like Mercedes, they want to get the maximum out of their engines. They want to get the maximum they can out of that car. So winter testing, the winter period, let's say, has always been a challenge for teams to get things done in like a month. But even now, it's a shorter time period for these dyno hours. So they're going to be learning about the durability, the driver performance, but it's going to be very, very, limited time. So you've got to learn as much as you can in that short space of time. There's no time for lagging. And I wouldn't think they would lag anyway. I mean, these are professional, world-class teams. However, if you've got an even shorter time to find out what's good, what's bad, what can be changed, what can't be changed, what's whatever, of course that's going to create problems. It's the first winter when they've only prepared for one single upgrade. Can you believe that? One upgrade? These regulation changes are hilarious because on the one hand, you've got an extended season, an extended calendar, and yet on the other hand, things are being limited, like the performances. Shout out to Beth One. She's done a video on why the Formula One calendar should be shorter, which I totally agree with. So check that out in the card. I'll put a link in the description. Don't worry about that. So you imagine one upgrade for the entire season is just absolutely bonkers. It's just mad. So we're going to see some damages. We're going to see some issues with the cars. At the same time, we're not going to get the very best, are we? Because normally you bring packages to different circuits over the course of the season where there's meant to be improvements. Some teams, like Haas, however, they've never always improved. Check out the video I've done on their Drive to Survive episode where it was just nothing but a cluster. But anyway, so it's almost like, I know we want to see more competition and I'm all for it, but I want to see the best, if that makes sense. So all the best performance, all the PU, if you will, needs to be at the first race. So the first race of the season, this will be arguably Mercedes' best of the best for the entire season, which is, do I believe it? I don't know if I even believe it. It just sounds ridiculous. How can they let them have one upgrade? It's mad. So he's also mentioned as well that there are more races, but the same number of power units. Again, it just doesn't make sense. It's almost like, hey, Formula One, do you see how silly you are? Do you see how stupid you are? I mean, the same amount of power units. Power units, they're hit and miss. For any team, it could be anything that could go wrong with the car. We've seen so many teams have reliability issues over the seasons. And so you imagine now more races, adding more stress to the engine, adding more issues and stress to the teams, really. Are we ever going to get the best from them? Who knows? Another problem. The winter's been short. If you remember, the 2020 season ended in the middle of December. I mean, we were racing in December. We might dabble in, the first couple of days of December, but what was it? Week 2 in December? Something like that, something crazy like that, where it just seemed like, come on, guys. And the fact that the season doesn't start any later is hilarious because, we just got to get the season going. And of course, they've jam-packed it with however many, is it 23 races? They've just absolutely ramsacked it with races. So, yeah, that's, again, more problems. But then it could create more competition. I don't know. What would you rather? Comment below. Would you rather have teams that are not quite prepared, but everybody's in the same boat? Or would you rather have teams that are fully prepared? We're going to get the best of each team again, in that same boat. I don't know which one I prefer. Let me know what you prefer. Hal puts it very well. We've had more to do with less time to do it in. The other issue you have, of course, is Mercedes and like every other team having to work during the pandemic. Okay, just because the pandemic's here and the seasons are still carried on. The races still went on last season, and the races are going to be carrying on in 2021 as well. So you're having to work and do all this strenuous hours working on the car and the development of the car. However, in a pandemic that we're in right now, you've got to worry about all the social distancing, making sure there's sanitizer, making things you've got your. It's crazy. Like, you've got so much like PPE equipment that you need. PPE equipment, is the E not equipment? Anyway, all the PPE, right, in order to make sure that everything is run ethically and smoothly, abiding by the COVID rules. It's all a bit, it's everywhere, isn't it? So it's crazy to think they're having to do so much more work, and then I've got to worry about this. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, the engineers and people who work with the performance of the car, specifically even the paint, the body of the car and everything else, the chassis, if you will, they've all got to be in the building, in the factories and whatever else. Your IT people, your admin people, maybe some logistics as well, they can be working from home, which kind of makes sense. But you imagine you having to go in every day to make sure you get the best out of the car. But, you got to also bear in mind these rules alongside it. It's just the last thing you need in a moment like this. But look, these are the times we're in, and the same works for every other team as well this season. He bigs up the IT crew, and you must in a time like this, because the innovation of IT has been nothing but phenomenal. Who knows what could have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago in Formula One had we gone through this pandemic then? Would teams be able to survive? I don't think so. They'll be struggling immensely. But right now, when you think about it, all the companies and businesses in the world that have still managed to keep going, to keep pushing, a large amount of that is, of course, down to the IT departments of each company and the health and safety departments as well. They've had to get their things straight and get it together and make sure that everything is safe, secure, because they're worrying about the safety of their staff members, and IT are worrying about the what's the word I'm looking for? They're worrying about sort of the production of their staff members, if that makes sense. So it's everybody's probably worked a lot closer than they've ever had before. And so shout out to Hal, he's bigging up IT. So, I got to big them up the same way. He mentions as well, they're welcoming McLaren in 2021. Shout out to the McLaren crew. McLaren Mercedes is back. Hopefully the performances are going to be just as superb as their title wins all the way back in 2008, 99, 98. It's been a long time, man. Come on, McLaren. Let's do some damage this year, But, of course, I'm jumping ahead. But Mercedes, of course, having to supply engines not only for themselves, but for the teams like McLaren, Aston Martin as well this weekend. Williams? I think Williams is in that boat as well. So they're having to work pretty much harder than most other teams, because people like Ferrari, of course, they supply engines for other teams. And who else supplies? Renault. Renault supplies, but who for? Wait, Renault's it's just Ferrari and Mercedes at the minute. I'm going blank. I think, anyway, so, Renault provided for themselves, for Alpine. Red Bull, of course, have got Honda this year. So, as you can see, it's Ferrari and Mercedes that are putting in most of the hours in terms of supplying engines, as well as supplying for their own car. Again, I'm amazed. Like, in the video, you see like the engines, and you're just seeing them all in a line. And, you might not be able to tell much from just looking at an engine, but I'm sure, that's a bit of juice for the other teams to look at and say, yeah, what have they got going on over here? I mean, whether there's some rules that they can't do that or whatever else. I was just surprised and pleasantly surprised, rather, about the honesty, the openness. We get to see a little bit inside Mercedes a little bit, which is great fun, and I'm all for it. So with that said, I don't know, what are your thoughts, people? Do you believe Mercedes? I mean, how many times do we hear there's some issues? How many times do we hear there is problems with that car, and yet they come out into the season and blitz everybody else? Who knows? I've already accused Lewis Hamilton of always lying to us when he says there's issues with the car, or the car is struggling, or he feels a certain way, and then he goes and he wins the race by an hour. So, I don't know how to feel about this. I'm really thankful to Mercedes for the video, because, like I said, we get a bit of an insight on the team, and, we like to see more from different teams, throughout the season. Give us a little bit of insight, give us a little bit of history in there. Because, yeah, why not? Like, I'm here for it. Formula One fans want this. They want to see more and more of what Mercedes have and what other teams have to offer. So I was pleasantly surprised. I'm actually happy they made this video, and it gave me a reason to put out some more content for you guys. So let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts? Do you think Mercedes are struggling as much as they say they are? Do you think the W12 is not going to be as good, or if not better than the W11? Which was a superb car last year, by the way. What color do you think this chassis will be? I can't get that chassis. What color do you think this... See, if I try to say it in a fast sentence, it doesn't work. What color do you think the car will be? Let's just leave it at that. Do you think they'll go back to the silver arrows sort of look? Will they stick with the black livery? What are your thoughts? I don't know where I stand with it. I think I prefer to go back to the silver. I think like the black last year symbolized what was important and what was the thought process behind it, of course, to do with Black Lives Matter, to do with everything that was going on in 2020, which was quite in many ways, it was quite a horrific year. And I feel like if you continue having the black liveries for the seasons to come, it might lose its meaning over time. I wonder if people will ever ask again, why do Mercedes have a black car? I don't think they will. Over time, they might just, because Mercedes to me doesn't really have a color, if that makes sense. Like black or silver or whatever, like to me, it's just a Mercedes, if that makes sense. Whereas when you think Ferrari, you think red, So even if they kept the black car, I feel like over time it might lose its essence. It might lose its substance, if you will. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you lot think in terms of whether they should keep that color or whether they should go back to the silver. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, lights out.